What is up, everybody? Welcome into episode 64 of the Brahma Bullpen. And as you can tell, we kicked producer's butt out of the cow pasture again, but we brought in the coach, the one and only Alex, representing the DC Defenders. What's up, Alex?
Hey, what's happening? Thanks for having me on the show. It's good to. I didn't even know how this thing worked anymore. It's been so long since I've been on.
Hey, welcome to the cow pasture. And the good thing is, the cow pasture, we don't know how anything works. We just turn it on and hope for the best.
Love it. I love it.
Well, we're going to talk a little DC Defenders. We're going to talk a little money talk and how that correlates into money issues in the UFL. We'll get to all that, but we're going to start the show off with Brahma news. This is the Brahma bullpen. So we're going to do a little roster talk, and then we're going to do a little UFL news. Stick around because you're going to want to hear what we got to say about money and how that affects the league. You cool with all that?
Works for me, man.
All right, man. Let's get it going. First things first. We're going to pop up these little graphics here. And we have roster talk. Now, the thing about this is, if you follow us on social media, we're keeping track of all the players signed here for the Brahmas throughout the entire season. So what they did this past week, the UFL personnel notice folks, the UFL.com put out all the signings. It basically just correlates with what we've been tracking. So I'm just going to pop this up for you guys just so you know. Here's all the signings. Here are the other signings. Feel free to pause and read these names if you want. I'm not going to read them all to you. We do have an updated roster that we have posted on social media. This is the last signing. The only San Antonio player on here is Brad Wing. Feel free to look at that. And the last roster graphic we're going to pop up is the 65 signed players rosters for the San Antonio Brahmas. Now, for those of you watching this, if you see a name in red, I'm going to tell you what that's about. There were past signings announced by UFL Communications. Then there's updated rosters on Fox UFL. And then we have the big roster release that was just put out this week. If the player is in red, that means Fox and previous signings have reported they were signed by the Brahmas, but they were not on the full roster signings that they just released because, as we all know, training camp started. So right now, we're looking for confirmation from the league for Derek Kelly, second, Haseen Hall, Alize Mack, Terrion Vincent, and Richard Lawrence. I can tell you that I'm pretty sure all these guys are on the roster. We got a 65-man roster right now with them counted going into training camp. So that's where we're at with the Brahmas. I know, Alex, you're a DC guy. What do you think about the Brahmas roster real quick? You got anything for me?
Well, I'm surprised you had me on the show because last time I was on, I was talking trash about how the Brahmas were a second division team and whatnot, and you guys made it all the way to the championship game. So, I think I proved what little value I bring when breaking down the Brahma roster. But, you've got a complete capture here. I think defensively, more of the same. That defense last year was just so tough, hard to move the ball against, very hard to run against. And, just at first glance, seeing a lot of these same names here. It's going to be interesting at camp how much turnover you have. Example would be, when you look at Washington or DC coming out of year one, 9-1, lost in the championship game. Very few moved going into 2024. They had guys come into camp, but basically they went with the same guys they had in 2023. You saw the end result, 4-6. You look at the Brahmas roster and you look at the success they had last year. Are you aggressive in turning over guys, or do you have a tendency to want to sit back and bring, a lot of the same guys forward in 2025? I guess we'll find out during training camp.
Yeah. For me on the defensive side, we got everybody back except for Delonte Scott. He was our big edge rusher, outside linebacker, jack, whatever you want to call it there. But we did sign Lonnie Phelps. So, and we still have Garrett Nelson, who played like almost every snap last year. So it's pretty awesome. But I think Lonnie Phelps is going to fill up that role. We still got our two top linebackers, Jordan Williams, Stephonte Beckett. We got the number one cornerback in the league, number one PFF rated quarterback in the league, Darius Phillips coming back. And we signed Greedy Williams, which is a big signing for us. Plus, we got Corey Midfield Jr., which was making big plays for us last year. So I think our defense definitely is as good, if not a little bit better than it was last year because second year. in the scheme there, playing with Wade Phillips. I think all these guys are going to take a little bit of, it's a little step forward. But in our offense, pretty much everybody coming back, except we got a better quarterback, so it's going to be awesome. But enough about the Brahmas. I want to be a gracious host. Down here we call it Southern hospitality.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that we give each and everybody uh, opportunity to defend themselves for picking DC to beat the Brahmas last year. So we're going to go ahead and do some roster talk for DC, and I'm going to just let you go. But do me
Yeah,
a favor, start
sure.
with the significance of a healthy Abram Smith.
Oh, I don't think we can underestimate what that means. Last year when he got hurt before the season started, I think there was a little whistling in the graveyard for me. You get another back in here and you replace him. Well, easier said than done. He was the top rusher in the league in 2023. And really having that run threat, and with Washington's offense being so RPO oriented, and people who watched the DC Defender show last year heard me say it a lot, run pass option, it starts with run. And if you don't have that run threat, the RPO game is pretty much non existent. And DC did not have that run threat last year. So obviously, all eyes on Abram. How healthy is he coming back? I think if he comes back anywhere near he is in 2023, that's going to take a lot of the load off of Teamu. I think Jordan last year was put in some really tough situations, having to put the team on his back. The RPO game really wasn't there, and changed the whole dynamic offensively. Long-winded answer to say healthy Abram Smith. They've added Deion Jackson, who's a former NFL guy with the Colts, good running back out of Duke, and then keeping Darius Higgins. So I feel pretty good about the running back room.
Yeah, that just having that hesitation by the secondary when the play action actually means something, that's going to increase Ta'amu's accuracy tremendously because he's going to just a little bit more room. It's a big deal. Game of inches, they say, right?
No question. And he runs the RPO well. Like, he's comfortable in that. So, he gets that really good read, and then he's got his RPO read. And, if the guy comes up, he's hitting that slant end behind it. If the guy hangs, you hand the ball off. They're different reads. And, the RPO offense is, to me, very similar to, and a lot of you guys will know I'm a run and shoot guy. It's simple. It sounds so complicated, but basically, the reads are simple. It's just you have to do it in real time. You have to do it, air option football. They react, you react. And he's good at it. Without that run game threat, guys aren't coming up hard to fill and support the run game. They can just, kind of hang back. And a lot of that, Abram getting hurt was tough, but the offensive line play last year was pretty sketchy. And, this year we're bringing back a couple of starters, and then they've gone out and picked up some guys who are in an NFL training camp. A lot of big bodies. There's a general theme. Most of these guys are, 6'6", 6'7", 315, 320. They hung on to practice squads all of last year. They're development guys. So we'll see how those guys come along. But the inconsistent play in the offensive line, the lack of a real home run back. They had Cameron Harris, but he wasn't Abram Smith. Offensively, we struggled. Whole new room of receivers. We have Chris Rowland coming back, who was probably the MVP of the team offensively last year on special teams, and then made some really big plays offensively for us. But they picked up a guy, Cornell Powell, out of Clemson today, an ex-Kansas City Chief. They just signed him. So they've been aggressive in turning over that room. If you go back and look at last year, you got Rowland and Scott coming back, and receiver, everybody else is going to be new.
Yeah, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Rowland was one of the league leading in touchdown receptions last year. But I think it was also because there wasn't a whole lot of like too many other people to throw him to.
No, it really wasn't. It wasn't, and he's a matchup challenge too, because they put him in the slot, and he's very fast, and he did a good job getting the ball to him in space. And then all you have to do is give that guy a step, and he's gone. He can fly.
Yeah, so it looks like Rowland had 3 touchdowns, which counts to a fifth of Ta'amu's touchdowns last year. Ta'amu's completion percentage was a 58.1 last year. That's
And
crazy.
Yeah, that's super low, as you know, for professional, really at any level anymore. I mean, it used to be back in the day when I played, you completed half your passes, and it's like, hey, pretty good game. Now, you're if you're under 60%, that's subpar. And a couple of Jordan's games too, I think you could even say that 58% is generous because there's a couple of games he was barely over 50,
Yeah.
and we struggled a lot offensively. Yeah, so again, I think you touched on it right off the bat. Smith is going to be the X factor. If he comes back, we get a running game going. Could be a completely different complexion of this team.
Yeah, and I don't know how in depth in the roster you've gone through, but I think you guys got like 5 tight ends on the roster, which is like the most tight ends out of any team. So what are you guys planning on doing? Just running these big old hog molly sets there on the goal line, or what?
Well, they ran a lot of three tights last year. So going back and looking at it, Alex Ellis is gone. He was the guy to Tennessee. He was with them last year, and so was Caden Smith. So two of the tight ends are gone. But yeah, you're right. When you take a look at what's on the roster now, um, we have 5 on the roster
5,
right
yeah.
now, 5 tight ends, and we did run three tights some and just line up and pound it a bit. So yeah,
I'm trying to look for it right now, but I know one of those tight ends had some significant NFL experience. David uh, uh, Azai. I'll
yeah.
probably pronounce his name wrong again, but
Isaiah Zai. Yeah. Anyway, no, yeah, he did have significant. Yeah, he had professional NFL experience, and then Caden Smith, the other tight end that they just let go, was with the Giants for a while.
okay.
So another NFL quality player, but yeah, the Bradley Moore obviously is the name to remember in there. He's been a stud for us at tight end, but yeah, 4 guys on the roster, 4 tight
Yeah.
ends.
What about defense? What stands out to you with y'all's defensive players coming back?
Not much from last year, to be honest with you. I thought that was the biggest disappointment for me. That team was kind of soft in the middle, and I felt like teams ran the ball on us. I went back and looked at the San Antonio box score. I think you guys, even in the game we beat you guys, rushed for 200 yards against DC. So, but they did make some moves up front. There's some talent there. I think when you look at linebacker, I'm intrigued with Momo Sanago, who's a linebacker out of Louisville, played some last year, but has all the tools to be kind of that dominant Reuben Foster type guy inside. Um, I think we bring back some good guys in Roberson and Malik Fisher, but still a lot of question marks in that front. Just soft last year a bit.
Yeah.
Would have liked to have seen more moves.
Yeah, I remember you guys telling me, you and your former co-host, who shall not be mentioned anymore. But I remember you guys telling me y'all's cornerbacks were just going to be the best cornerbacks ever, and then that didn't quite pan out. But I got good news
That's
for
right.
you. I see that Bryce Thompson, former Brahmas
Yeah.
cornerback, so I know you have at least one good cornerback up there. But what's your secondary looking like?
Secondary, yeah, they did have some losses there. So DeAndre Baker is back. He was tough for us last year back there. They do have some shoes to fill though with Conley, Kelly, Michael Joseph retired. Nasir Rouse is gone. Um, so some significant losses back there from those are names that we've seen all of last year, and in some cases some back to 2023. So a lot of new faces, a lot of new bodies back there. Yeah, Baker and Joseph pretty much the only, and then the safeties, Nicholson and Anderson are back. They
Oh,
picked
good.
them up from the Vipers on the dispersal draft last year.
Well, I think you got a good nickel there in Thompson, so I think you'll see him on the field a little bit there.
We'll,
But
we'll, we'll pencil him in then as Josh's pick to click.
yeah, so we talked a little offense, we talked a little defense. Now I'm gonna put you on the spot, and I warned you before you came on the show, so don't be mad at me. But what is your record prediction?
5-5. How about that?
Oh,
Is that about as neutral can get, isn't it?
man, and the 2 games against the Brahmas, are we talking 1-1? You gonna take the
I'm
easy
gonna
way out?
I'm gonna take a split. I'm gonna
Are
take a
you?
split. Yeah, I'll take a split. I'll take the easy way out. But it's for me, this team, like I was on chatting with Thorne a little bit yesterday and some of the guys over there, and there's a lot of optimism about who DC's picked up. Um, I think potentially this team could be really, really good. But to me, when I look at the where you win in the trenches, too many
Hmm.
question marks. I think we'll find out early against Birmingham the first week. But based on what I saw last year, based on the moves, probably a 500 team
So week one, y'all play the Stallions. Are you guys home or are Stallions home?
at Audi, Phil. So
Oh
they'll be
man,
coming up here,
that's gonna be
Sunday.
epic.
It's going to be epic. You'll find out soon. You get to see how good you are, how you stack up, right? So it
Yeah,
should be fun.
that's awesome. Well, look for Alex to be kind of jumping around from show to show. I don't know. I actually want to tell him what your plans are for the season. He's going to be like our roving DC coach, Alex expert, right?
Exactly. Which will probably end up being code for if somebody calls in sick and you need somebody to talk to, they'll know. But as many of you guys know, Webb and I did Hammer Time for the Pittsburgh Maulers, and then last year covered DC with the DC Defender Show. And we built such a connection, Webb and I both, with the Mauler players. And when with so many of the Mauler players moving to Memphis now to be part of that Showboat team, Webb wanted to cover that team, and I certainly get it. He did the work with the graphic. He did it all. All I had to do was show up and talk. He does a great job. He wants to put those efforts into Memphis and his guys. 110% get it. But it did leave me orphaned. So what I'm going to look to do is sort of join and provide premium DC Defender content and join other shows to offer some perspective about your DC Defenders.
Yeah, and for those of you that have been watching the bullpen since day one, we know that Alex came on last year before the season, broke down defenders for us, made a bunch of crazy false statements that turned out not to be true. So we thought we would bring him on this year, but he went 1-1 DC versus Brahma. So we're gonna let him slide on that, nice and neutral, and we'll look to get him back on the show when we play DC and stuff. We really appreciate you joining us out here in the cow pasture. Bring
Oh,
some
I love it, but
class.
I'm still ticked off about that stinking botched field goal or whatever, where they threw it to the tight end or center waddling down the field, and then if Delanch doesn't spit on half of Texas, we got a chance to win that game. We're down there first and goal, and he starts picking fights. So, yeah.
Man, let's be honest, Alex. That epic touchdown catch by the center for Brahmas, not only did it get a bunch of Brahma players on a bunch of podcasts, national fame, it got tons of social media. They were on the Pat McAfee show, Alex. Would you really take that away from the UFL just so DC could get a win?
Here's the thing. When it happens in the league, you love it. When it happens to your team, it's horrible. And when that guy was caught the pass and he goes, it's a center
Yeah.
waddling into the end zone. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But it
Yeah.
was good for the league. And that's another thing, Josh. You bring up a good point. You see the stuff in the offseason, and when people put this league down, they show just how little they know about football, the quality of these players, the excitement of this league, that we've got something special here. And this will be the third year for the UFL, for the legacy USFL teams in the modern era, the fourth season that we've had spring
Mhm.
football. And isn't it great? Isn't it great to think in 4 weeks we're gonna tee it up?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. And let's get on to money talk. You ready to talk some money?
Let's
Since we're
talk
talking
money.
we're talking about the league getting better, we're talking about players coming back, we're talking about similar coaching staffs, familiarity. All these players are learning what they need to do. I think every team's going to take a step forward. In fact, I haven't seen a single team in the offseason that I don't think has improved. I think every team's gotten that much better.
Mhm.
So it's kind of crazy to think about that. But we're going to talk a little bit of money. We're going to talk a little bit of rules in the league. So the first thing we'll do, we'll pop up this rules graphic here. United Football League announcing some rule changes. It's one of the biggest things here, Alex. I'll get your thoughts on it. Is they're extending the coaches challenge, meaning if you get the first one right, you get your challenge back instead of losing it. What do you think about giving them that extra challenge?
I love it. I mean, I think they're rewarded for calling, paying attention to the game, calling the refs out, and that because if you think about it, they shouldn't. They should be rewarded the challenge. And I think that's a neat innovation in the game. If you recall, the original USFL in the 80s had that when the NFL, they didn't have that, and it was kind of neat to watch that was a very novel thing. But in terms of this rule change, absolutely, I think it's a good move.
We'll talk a little bit more about the coaches challenge and how it pertains to NFL football here in a minute. But you guys see, I didn't lead off with this one because I needed to slow roll it to Alex. The kickoff rule, the XFL kickoff rule is now been adopted in the UFL, but that's also because the NFL adopted it. And I know Alex. Well, I'll just let him tell it. What do you think about going back to the XFL kickoff rule?
Yeah, I know. I've made a lot of friends on X with this one, but I don't necessarily like it. Like, I think a lot of people know that I'm a little older than some of the guys that are on the network and on these shows, and
Wiser.
I love you, man. I'm more of a purist or traditionalist when it comes to football, and I coached Division III football for a while, and all of the coaches were on special teams, and my baby was kickoff team and kickoff return team. So I got to put in what we actually ran on the kickoff returns, and that was the piece that I coached. And there's so many creative things you can do with all that space and on a kickoff return. And when we would have these big returns, it's like game changing. It's like can be the most exciting play in football. And I think you minimize it when you kick off. You put guys 10 yards in front of each other, directly lined up. You can trap. You can go up and stalk block and hope for a seam. But it's nothing like doing a counted return, or back in the day we used to run a double wedge return. And when that thing would open up, it was
Oh
just a
man.
beauty. You have all this space. I think it's taken away from the game. I think it takes away from the amount of big plays. And I'd even challenge, I know it's a safety thing, but I don't know. Maybe I'm blind. I don't see people dropping dead on kickoffs. Like when did it start where all these guys just started
Yeah.
dropping dead on kickoffs?
You remember back in the day when the blockers would literally like lock arms and literally
Yeah.
make like that wedge, and they would just go down and pommel coverage guys. And to me,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. But the NFL did do a study this past year, and uh, they the first time in decades actually reduced the number of concussions on the field. They specifically attributed that to the kickoff rules, and then also the percentage of returns I think went up by like 20%. And I'll tell you, you're not the only one. Producer on this show hates it as well. So you and producer are exactly the same. Me, I'm just tired of fair catching in the end zone or the ball getting kicked out the
Yeah.
back. It's
Yeah.
boring.
I agree, but I would say my argument would be move the damn thing back to the goal line if you have to and kick it off to get a return, because I think the
Okay,
returns are really exciting. I
I
mean,
like it.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it's a safety thing. Ultimately, if data are there that show it's safety, it's the best interest of the players, then you go through with it. I would just probably question the causality of the concussions, and can you truly pin them on kickoff and kickoff return?
yeah. I don't want to. You can. All the details are up on the kickoff. If you want to see it in action, watch any NFL game from last year. It's there. Or watch any XFL game from 2 years ago. It's there. And be ready for it to be in our league this year. And even Moose doesn't like it. We all saw that interview a couple episodes here on the bullpen. But also onside kicks. There's no more. They eliminated the option. So last year you could do either one. Now it's done. It's basically 4th and 12 from the 28-yard line. Let's go. You good with that one?
4th and 12 is exciting. I do think that's exciting, and I think it's reasonable. I think 4th and 12 is easier to convert than an onside kick,
Yeah.
especially the way these offenses are. They can get 12, 15, 18 yards like nothing, but it is a game changer, and they've created things to make the games more exciting, where you can't leave early. That's good.
More football plays, everybody wins, including
That's
the
it.
players, right?
That's it,
Of
man.
course, other noteworthy rules that are returning. This is not a change, but we have our same uh, conversion after the touchdown. From the 2-yard line, you get one play for a point. From the 5-yard line, a play for 2 points. 10-yard line, 3 points. And also overtime rules where you alternate attempts from the 5-yard line. Best overtime rules on the planet, right?
It's super exciting. Super, the overtime. It's easy, it's straightforward, and it's exciting. And even going back to it was slightly different in the USFL. But anybody that watched that Michigan Maulers championship game, to see who would face Birmingham for the USFL title. That was, I mean, my heart was in my throat watching that thing. It was just incredible to watch. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And speaking of rules and how they correlate to the broader realm of football, the NFL is once again, uh, they just can't have an original thought on their own, right? So now the NFL is going to put the electronic tracking system that the UFL, similar to one the UFL uses in their regular season for 2025. But even then, they're like, well, we don't want our chain guys to lose their job, so they're going to still be on the sideline just in case. But tracking, you good with tracking, or you old school and want the chain gang out there?
No, I've seen chains get tangled up too many times and either give you a first and give the other guy a first down when he didn't stretch the stinking thing up out all the way. You know, you have the kink in the chain. But no, I think it's great. I think what you've seen with the UFL, these innovative ideas, these innovations, you know, they can test drive them in the spring league, and then the bigger league is going to be paying attention. And then if it's something that works and makes sense and can be implemented, you know, you could go back to the American Basketball Association in the 70s. They had the three-pointer going in the slam dunk contest. And the NBA said it stunk. And then when the ABA was merged in the NBA, guess what? We start chucking up threes and having a slam dunk contest. So sometimes the little guy directs the big guy how to do it.
Shout out to the ABA. That's how we got the Spurs down here in San Antonio, by the way. They
You'd
they
like that.
started out
Yeah,
that way, right? And then went to
that's
the
exactly right.
NBA. The other thing we kind of hinted toward this earlier, replay challenging. So even the NFL is now considering giving the challenge to the coaches where if they think there's a call miss on the field, they can throw that flag out there and challenge that. Look, if you want to beat the narrative that these games are rigged, let the coaches challenge that
Yeah.
stuff. And I know for us here in San Antonio, when we had Hines Ward as part of the XFL, that dude used that challenge every chance he got. Wade Phillips, not so much, but man, Hines Ward was like 80% on those challenges. It was amazing how many plays we got to replay or penalties we got that weren't called. And it just was an awesome thing to see. So, what do you think about the challenge rules, and what do you think about them putting it in the NFL?
Yeah, I love it on both accounts. I think it's great to try to get it right. I mean, the CFL, you can challenge and they can actually challenge, you know, pass interference calls. They can challenge, oh, we thought he was interfered with or we thought he wasn't. So that they can actually get into the judgment calls. But I think if rewarding the coaches with the extra challenge, if they get it right, is certainly the right thing. And I certainly think that challenge, to your point about Hines Warren, can be used judiciously, can impact a game in a good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I like
Get it right. More football plays and get it right. That's what we
Get it
want as
right.
fans. Is right.
Get it right. One thing I'd like to see across all levels of football while we're at it, you know, every time it's third down and 16 and somebody throws a deep fade or something, you don't have to throw a flag on everything, refs. It's become too much on third down. We throw these flags. You know, they call what they think they see. You know, come on, let's let these guys play a little bit. We don't have to replay everything, every targeting call. You know, every deep ball is not a pass interference. Let them play a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. If no blood, no foul, like we did in the
Exactly.
80s.
That's
Man.
exactly right.
Yeah. Let's get out of the 80s and let's get into
Let's do
modern
it.
day. We're going to talk our last little news bit here. So United Football League leverages Salesforce Agent Force to provide world-class service to ticket holders. Basically, now when you go online, you go to the website, you're going to have an AI app there to answer questions for you, help you get where you need to get on the website, and also help do what it's got to do to promote tickets. Evidently, I'm not real familiar with what this specific app does, but I know AI is taking over the world. It's being used each and every day at this point. I even literally within the last 4 or 5 months started using it in my professional
Yeah.
career. Heck, I'm using it now to help me uh, produce a show. You know, the other day I asked AI if it would give me a list of good questions for a wide receiver, and it popped out like 15 questions, and they were awesome. So, but what do you think about AI and ticket sales and helping push the league?
Similar to you, I've started using it within the last year and a half, and it's incredible. Kind of garbage in, garbage out. But I think probably what they've done is they've probably trained these bots on the site for, you know, certain questions, certain, you know, patterns, what to listen for. I think if it's anything that can help enhance, that's the word I was looking for, the fan experience and help them getting tickets. 100% all for it. What I don't like is getting caught in the phone tree at Lowe's where you're being redirected to everybody knows what it picks up. But I think this is a little bit different. And if they can find a way to leverage technology where it's not intimidating and the end result are satisfied ticket buyers, have at it.
I was really expecting the get off my lawn. I want to talk to a person response, Alex.
Oh God, no! I hate talking to people with stuff like that. I want to look at the tickets. I want to look at like the seats, the tickets, the best available. Often I'll look to see is there anybody within 6 rows of me because I want to spread out a little bit.
I got
But
you.
yeah, I'm not to get off your lawn when it comes to AI. I'm on it.
Let's do it. Well, beautiful. Well, let's talk about some money. And I promise you, I'm going to bring up some stuff that's not UFL and spring football related, but stick with us to the end. We'll tie it all up in a nice bowl for you. You ready to talk some money, Alex?
Yeah, when's my check coming for this?
Hey, the United Football Media Group, if I haven't told you that, we are here on behalf of United Football Media, and those checks get mailed out religiously every month at the same exact time each month. Look, I even get UFM swag because I'm one of the top
Sharp.
content producers on here, and my check shows up at the same time. It's always shown up. You know what I'm saying, Alex?
I hear you, brother. I got you.
But the NFL. New record salary cap, $279.2 million per team per year. It's a $23.8 million increase. And it doesn't even count all the extra money to include the benefits and healthcare and all that. So technically, the number is $362.48 million a year just to pay players and provide benefits to players in NFL. Crazy numbers, right?
It's crazy.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and if you think it's just NFL, folks, it's not. All right. The Sports Business Journal, an article here by Brian Anderson. I am not plagiarizing. That's why I have his name and everything on here. Feel free to go look up their Twitter and find their articles and find it for yourself. But talking about private equity in college football. So basically, private equity is like a loan. You you get all your money up front, and you give a percentage of your profits back to private equity. Eventually, equity gets their investment back, and then some. They start making money off of it, just like a bank charging you interest on a car loan or a home loan, and they're just trying to get their money. But college sports is just college football in general. But uh, these schools have ESPN, as what brought on here, has a $1.3 million media rights deal, 1.3 billion with a B for college football. Athletic departments are trying to make money any way they can because of NIL. They got to pay these players. They got to still maintain their facilities. They still got to make sure they got the best facilities. They still got to pay their coaches. Texas A&M, and we'll talk about them in a minute more specific because we do talk about Aggies on here from time to time. They got to pay two coaches. Whoop. They got to pay two coaches like $10 million a year at the moment, right? We're going to be paying Jimbo Fisher for like the next 6 years. But gone are the days of just these big rich boosters giving money. Those guys are still around, but now you have investment. You have private equity investment groups trying to get in. The UFL has a private equity investment group in Redbird Capital that is the majority owner of the UFL, and they own other sports franchises such as the Boston Red Sox. They own one of the big soccer teams. I think it's Manchester United, and then they also own some sports news agencies and stuff. So you got all this outside money trying to get in and get into this sports money, and all it does is add pressure, right? It adds pressure, but this private equity is coming to college. You have the NFL raising salary cap. NFL is a billion-dollar industry. College football is a billion-dollar industry. We're here talking about the UFL. I don't know what we are yet, but we'll get into why we're talking about this. On what are we $100,000 in a corporation right now? Are we multi-million-dollar? What is it going to take to get to the $1 billion? But what do you think about all this outside money, Alex, coming into the college and the big money in NFL?
You wonder where it ends because, like, at some point, everybody's got wants their piece of the pie, but they pass on a lot of this cost to the fans. From going to Aggie games, it's an investment to go 6 weekends a year to go watch Aggies play football, and you do it because you like it. But at some point, do they price your family out of the mix? And we don't have an unlimited supply of money, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think my concern is that as salary caps grow, somebody's going to pay for it. Could be some of these private equity guys, but it could be a lot of the cost being passed on to the fans. And then at some point, have you sort of priced the common fan out of the opportunity to have the experience? But does that represent an opportunity for alternative football leagues like the UFL? Because our model is extremely affordable. So
Yeah. Yeah. Speak for yourself about not having unlimited money, as you guys can see from the graphics. So not only is A&M part of the SEC, which is one of the highest paying out media rights organizations around, but A&M also has a secondary thing they just signed, a 15-year, $515 million multimedia deal. So basically, this is anything that ESPN doesn't want, right? So of course, ESPN is going to take all the football games, majority of the big basketball games, the baseball games they want, and then there's stuff like women's softball and soccer and track and field and anything else that might be televised. This is the Aggies used to be with a company called
yeah,
Learfield Sports, and
yeah.
uh, now they're with Playfly Sports, who has a bunch of other colleges that they have agreements with. But this is the biggest one in college football history. So you have this, plus they're getting their $40 million a year, whatever it is, from ESPN. So and this is pretty much double. Went from $18 million a year annually to $34 million a year annually. And one of the reasons you ask, why would someone pay this much? This is a list of values of college programs. If you look, number one, Ohio State, 1.32 billion. University in Austin that shall not be mentioned. We call them TU or the SIPs, 1.28 billion. There's A&M third, 1.26 billion. And then of course you got Michigan over a billion, but you got four schools over a billion, then a bunch of 900 million schools. But it's crazy
It's crazy.
how much money there is in just football and athletics and all this stuff. Alex, what do you think about these crazy valuations for these programs?
Well, it's the market, but you're talking to an ex Division III football coach, and I recruited student athletes, and we recruited a lot of good football players that were, maybe they were a 6'1" guard or tackle, not a 6'4", 6'5", or a good running back that was running a 4'7" or 4'8", not a 4'4". But they had to be students first, and you think about what you know a similar in college athletics back in the early 1900s went through the same type of thing. It was like there were certain schools that said we're throwing our hat into the rats race, and certain schools that said, hey, we're done with the professionalism, we're done with the cheating, we're done with the professionalism in amateur athletics. But 100 years later, I think we're looking at professionalism in amateur athletics, and it's let's go make the money. At some point, where does the money run out? Where do the fans say enough? Or where do enough schools who are probably going to get left out of that? You had the cream of the crop up there, right? With A&M and the SIPs and Georgia and those guys. How about the next layer? When you start to see the Cincinnatis and the West Virginias and stuff like that, and they find they can't keep up at that pace, then what happens to college football? Does it splinter off? Does some go back in a different direction?
You, you
Some do
know,
like Rice and Tulane and say, screw it, we don't want to be part of the SEC and Tulane's case,
yeah.
and they drop out, and Rice goes 1-10 every year in the Southwest Conference because he can't compete.
For every alternative football fan that always has this pipe dream about being a minor league to the NFL, look, man, it's not going to happen. They have college football with billion-dollar evaluation programs, literally doing everything for the NFL for free. Think about the combine that we're watching on TV right now. Think about the the draft when it comes up, the ratings on that, plus all the players going through there, and they all have practice squad players, this and that. Look, it's not going to happen. NFL has it; it's for free. Not only is it free, the schools and universities are making billions of dollars off of it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just wild.
With the UFL though, and I think you touched on it, I think it's maybe something the league should consider is, in the old USFL, they had identified, and I think we have the right season. I really think the spring, is made for football. And I think that people that are nuts, football nuts like us, will watch football in the spring and into the early summer. I think we have the season. I think we have the markets. I think if we can sort of clean up some of the marketing efforts, some of the ways that these teams are bonding within the communities. I know San Antonio, I watched your last show, which was a great show. You guys are doing a lot of things in the community for visibility. I think we can continue to build there. But then, as we start to see these prices skyrocket with college football and the NFL and others, we may have the affordable alternative that families can bring their kid. You go down to DC, you're gonna. I don't know how it is in San Antonio, but it's a treat. The stadium's great, the entertainment's fantastic, the football's good, the area around the stadium is fantastic. It is money well spent. You don't feel like you're getting fleeced, and maybe that's going to be the angle. These prices will continue to skyrocket, and as more and more fans say no, they'll look for alternative football, and that could be us,
Yeah.
alternative professional football.
Down San Antonio, you're literally a couple blocks from the Riverwalk, a couple of blocks from River Center. $20 a ticket to get in. There is it's they keep that area really really nice, and then they're fixing to do. I don't know if you saw our episode, but they're proposing to do major renovations on the Alamo Dome and in that whole area. We're talking hotels, giant land bridges, all kinds of entertainment. Plus, they're going to put the Spurs Stadium theoretically, if it all passes, literally
Yep.
right next door to the Alamo Dome, which right now it's kind of a few miles away in a different part of town. So it's going to just make this beautiful complex. It's going to be awesome. And $20 a ticket, I
Huh.
mean, you can't beat it, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now you're like, okay, Bullpen, get to the UFL. Get to the UFL. Well, we're going to get there. Okay. We're going to get there. Let me just get this pulled up for you folks. That's right. The same Sports Business Journal came out and reported players are going on strike for the UFL, specifically the quarterbacks. We'll pull up the list here in a little bit, but essentially, players want more money, they want more benefits, they want housing, and I'm not opposed to that. Okay, I want players to get played plenty of money so that they can take care of their families, play football for the 10 weeks or 12 weeks, depending if you make the playoffs, and make a good living. Right now, they're making $55,000 plus. You get game checks in the playoffs and stuff like that. A common working man might say, "Hey, for 10 or 12 weeks worth of work, 50 grand's pretty good budget." But players believe that their salaries are inadequate, and they signed up to go on this strike. And the Sports Business Journal and this news article, when it first broke, it probably made it seem a little bit more worse than what it is, because they really weren't going on strike for the season. They were going on strike for a quarterback specific camp. But it
Right.
doesn't change the fact that every quarterback in the league, first, second, and third stringer, every quarterback in the league signed off and sent this letter that's popped up on the screen right now to Russ Brandon and Dale Johnson, saying they weren't happy uh, with the raises. So I'll just put the article back up here while we kind of talk about it. But my I'll give my thoughts, and then I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I want them to get paid,
Yep.
but man, it's way too early. I'll tell you what's happening. You got college players making, they're saying right now a college quarterback can make up to $10 million a year. Most of these guys are making at least $1 or $2 million a year to go play college football. Not to mention what NFL players, the big salary cap. We put that big $300+ million number up there. We talked about evaluation programs. Okay, what you have now is this money everywhere. There is money everywhere in football. You have an alternative football league, and these players uh, coming from big universities, spending 2 or 3 years with the NFL, maybe on a practice squad, then they get cut or something happens or they get injured or whatever, and then they're left out there still with this love of football, and they want to come down here and play for the UFL and get some screen time, right? But where do you go from being a sought after high school athlete, where you have colleges offering you millions of dollars and recruiting you from the time you're in eighth grade, going into these big college programs, making millions of dollars on national TV all over the place, getting treated like the superstars that you are? I'm not saying you're not superstars. Going into the NFL, $1 billion industry. What kind of deprogramming has to happen for these guys to come down to a fledgling spring football league? And I don't get me wrong, I want this league to get to the size of the NFL, or at least the size of college football, and have these guys make $1 million a year and have a standalone league out there that's just super successful, and these guys make all the money they need. And maybe we'll have full-time spring football players that don't even want to go to the NFL. That would be my ultimate goal. But
Yeah.
when do we get there? And what responsibility does the league have? And what responsibility do these players have to make the fans and the people that spend money to go to these games feel comfortable? Because I can tell you right now, the biggest reason in my mind that they're not making money and these stadiums are not packed is not because of quality of play. It's because people that work every day to make $50,000 a year are don't want to invest their money in something they think's not going to be around next year. And
That's
and that's my
100%
thought.
right.
What do you think?
That's 100% right. I said the same thing about if you go back and look at Birmingham, because I know they do pretty well on TV. And I think some people were saying, hey, Birmingham has the hot weather. And, if you're in Birmingham in the afternoon, it's miserable. Don't give me that. If I want to go to a football game, I'll sit in the heat, the cold, whatever. You'll do that. But I wonder sometimes with Birmingham, they had the Birmingham Americans in the World Football League, the Birmingham Stallions, the Birmingham Iron, the Birmingham, what Mad Dogs, whatever they were in the CFL. I mean, they've had so many spring football teams come through. Is that exactly what you said? Is it a fatigue thing, and we don't want to invest because they might not be here next year? And I think you touched on a couple of things in that opener there. You know, I'm not a Stallions fan, but I became a Jay Sternberger fan when I saw the text that he sent out this week about how he envisions himself as sort of more or less a trailblazer, and that what the guys that are establishing this UFL, the spring league, the opportunity that they're creating for people downstream. And sometimes when you're doing that, you have to take the lumps, and maybe they aren't getting paid what they deserve. But I think that to your point, we're so early in this and trying to get it to work. If we screw it up, you might never have a chance, not only for yourself, but for others. So it might not be what I want to get paid, but we are getting paid to play. Right.
Yeah.
So,
So some of the thought process in this article, they said, and if you read the quote there, it says, "Well, The Rock's the owner, so there we should be getting paid more." First of all, The Rock was friends with Vince McMahon and bought the rights to the XFL. I don't know
right.
how much of an owner he is in the league right now. He might
Mm-hmm,
be owner in name only as a
mm-hmm,
publicity thing or a marketing thing. He doesn't even
mm-hmm,
tweet or really market the league. I don't know how much of an owner he is. If he just owns a piece of the copyright for the XFL,
mm-hmm.
UFL, who knows? I know that they were instrumental in the merger and all that, but I don't know what he owns. I think Redbird Capital is the majority owner from what I've
Yeah,
been reading. And then
yeah,
the other thing they're talking about, they said the league has a new office building leased out and a new, they're posting videos of this new workout facility. Yeah, yeah. To operate a business, you need
that's right.
a place to operate out of. Okay. And all of that, in my mind, is actually more expensive. Now they're paying rent. Now they're paying electricity. Now they got overhead. Now they got insurance. They got all this stuff. And I get it. Players need to get paid too. Don't but come on, folks. These guys got this. The league has to become profitable. And
Yeah,
I will tell you, when you start seeing 30, 40, and 50,000 people in the stands, then you'll know the TV ratings are up to the
that's right.
point where they need to be, and the marketing dollars are going to be where they need to be. But if we got people putting 7, 8,000 people, even 15,000 people in a stadium to watch a football game, you ain't making no money, you know?
Right. Right. And the TV ratings haven't been bad. And I think that, a large part of the this was, sort of this made for TV league, if you will. But I think we both we're singing from the same hymnal. We got to give this thing a chance to work. The infrastructure, the office building, the workout equipment, they're building the infrastructure for building something long term. And while it may not seem fair to these guys, and some of them may feel like they're being underpaid, I hate to say it, it kind of goes with the territory. You're getting something off the ground that 10 to 15 years from now, hopefully you'll look back and say, hey, I was one of the guys that got that thing on its feet. And now look at it today.
The NFL started that way too, right? It used
Hell
to
yeah.
be there was no such thing as pro football. You played football in college and you did it for free, and you
Right.
thought you were getting making a win because you got your education out of the deal way back in the day. Even when the NFL started, these
Yeah,
guys were making chump change compared to what these players are making now, and it didn't happen overnight, right? 50
absolutely.
plus years of growth.
Absolutely, you nailed it. 50 plus years of growth.
Yeah.
Probably that NFL championship game, the Colts and Giants in 50, whatever it was. And no, I was not alive then. But that was kind of the game that really was the first nationally televised NFL game. And that really pushed the league on a fast track forward. But to your point, I mean, hell, it was the Canton Bulldogs and the Pottsville Maroons and the
Yeah.
Decatur Staleys and the Meat Packers up in Green Bay. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we'll move it to the Super Bowl era. Look, Bart Starr was not making the same amount of money that Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes were just making.
no,
Okay, I'm gonna just tell you, Patrick Mahomes probably makes what the entire league got paid at the time of the first Super Bowl by
absolutely.
himself. Okay, so I'm
Yep.
not saying that I don't want to get there. I'm just saying, come on, guys, let's get us there. And
Take our
this
time.
last graphic I got up here, Pro Football Talk News, you can read where they're still trying to drum this up into some crazy story where the players still might strike. Okay, all the players have reported. Training camp started today. They're all there. Everybody's putting in work. They're ready to play. This is my timeline that I'm sharing here with you. So I got one article telling me, hey man, it's possible they might strike when it gets closer because we're still, 4 weeks away from kickoff, trying to drum up something. And all I'm saying, all that does is make the casual fans less interested, and it takes the
Yep.
ones that were on the verge of becoming more interested and pushes them away because they don't want to
Mhm.
invest in something that they think is going to be a loss. But then if you look underneath it, these two tweets are not related. So you got the Pro Football Talk story trying to drum up something. Look down, look at one of the players, look at Boogie Roberts. I put this in here specifically because I knew I had a mauler here. Look what he posted today. First day back, cry, teary eyes emotion. Super happy to be there. I have missed you so much talking about playing football. Boogie Roberts is who we want in his league. And when he's done playing this league, he's going to sit back. He's going to make whatever money he makes, but he's going to sit back and know he gave his all and know he
Yep.
helped build something. And that's
Yep.
what we need from the players right now. Unfortunately, you're going to have to everybody starts at the entry level at a position, and if you work hard and you do a good job, one day you're going to be a manager, and theoretically you should make a lot more money as a manager than you do as an entry level. And it just sucks that all the players right now are kind of entry level. But
Yep.
let's not chase the casuals away. Let's
Yeah.
get some more Boogie Roberts out there.
Oh, yeah. Boogie's going to be a guy that when the league does stick and you look back on it 15, 20 years from now, I hope he has a prominent position within the league. Definitely has a broadcast and media future ahead of him, but, he's such a positive, and there's so many guys in this league that are like the Boogies of the world, and we're starting to create our own stars. I mean, that's the other thing. We're going into this year and, a lot of familiar faces on the Defenders team and with the Brahmas. We're developing our own talent, our own stars, and fans will continue to bond with them. Um, we're on the right track. And I'd also caution too, like you see with different media outlets, people like to see, it's funny how we are sometimes, how it's fun to see people fail, really. And I think, when people predict the demise of spring football, it's like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? I mean, we're watching football in the spring. Why would you want it to fail? But if it makes you feel better to write some, wingnut article about spring nut football and it makes you feel special, so be it. But, I think we just need to remain very positive about the league, where we are. We got everybody's undefeated. We got a whole season of fun in front of us. And for this league, second year of the UFL, the merged league, fourth year straight of spring football going back to the USF. 4 seasons, guys.
Yeah. And for those of you still here, trust me, nobody's striking. The league is going to play. We're going to have a great season. And don't let these drama queens and clickbait articles get you all fired up.
That's right.
And we're going to end it like that. I'm going to let it go out with the same way we always do on the bullpen with a nice horns forward. Let's go, Brahmas, baby. Alex?
Josh, thanks for having me. It was fun. It's been too long. But until we meet again, so long, everybody.